Hello, I'm Cam Johnson, Public Affairs Manager for Cox Communications. I'd like to welcome you to our first ever virtual episode of Across the Gulf Coast. Obviously, things are very different right now up and down the Gulf Coast. And when the pandemic first started back in March, most, if not all, nonprofit events were having to be canceled. These are their main fundraising events that they have throughout the year to help them provide the services that they give back to our community. And obviously with these events being canceled, the funding declined dramatically. I think we've all heard the word pivot a lot lately. That's become a popular term that we're all having to pivot and go different directions. And that's what these nonprofits have had to do. So we're going to talk to a few of them today to find out how they are changing in this current environment and what they could use from the community, what kind of help they could receive from the community so that they can still provide for their clients and still give their services back to our community. First of all, we're going to be joined by Gulf Coast Kids House, located in Pensacola. We have Stacy Kostavicki and Megan Chapman joining us. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on the program today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Stacy, let's start with you, and let's talk about Gulf Coast Kids House overall. Going back to March, when everything kind of seemed to happen at one time in mid-March, with things being shut down and the pandemic really getting into focus, how did Gulf Coast Kids House have to react to that? And then how were you able to continue to do your mission with the children that you serve?
Sure. Well, for anyone not familiar with Gulf Coast Kids House, we see the most egregious child abuse cases in Escambia County. So our work didn't stop, but it definitely looked different in March. As of March, we kind of closed the building down and people began operating out of their homes. So I'm proud to say that we never stopped providing services. The children were still seen on site, but it went to more of an on-call type of situation. And whereas before we would have interviewed the non-offending caregiver there at the kids' house, we started conducting a lot more phone interviews so that then, much like your doctor's office, we were able to come out and collect the child, bring them in the house, do the interview and the medical exam with minimal traffic in the building. Therapy services also went online. I think our biggest challenge when all of this started was trying to make sure that we had enough personal protective equipment for our medical providers and interviewers, just making sure that if we had a child that screened positive, we were still able to see them in a safe and effective way. We did see child abuse numbers drop a little bit for the month of April, of course, with kids being home and not visible in the schools. But as of May, they were back to normal counts. Unfortunately, we are seeing that the abuse is more egregious than what we typically see. There's a lot of sexual abuse happening. The physical abuse is typically so bad by the time that we hear about it right now that the children are getting removed from their home. And we're also seeing an increase in sex trafficking because kids are spending a lot more time online. So we've had to pivot, but the services are still there.
Yeah, and that's what, I don't think most people realize is, yes, everything did kind of come to a halt for a lot of people. But for you guys, as you said, the numbers declined a little bit in April, but like you said, school was out, so maybe they just wasn't being recognized. But your need was, or your clients, so to speak, were still there. The need for your services were still there. So how have things gone since then? We're coming out of the summer, we're getting ready to go back to school. Is there anything that's changed dramatically, or is there anything any other trend that you guys have noticed?
I think the biggest thing that we've seen, and this is a positive, is that people in the community are worried about children. When the stay-at-home orders happened, I'm sure Megan can attest to this too, our phones were blowing up with, what does that mean for our kids? How can we tell if something's happening? And we do have an online Safe Kids Zone training that people can take and learn the signs of abuse. But overall, we're kind of back to business as usual with our clients. It's in the fundraising world that everything looks very, very different.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, Megan. Everything is very, very different in the fundraising world because you can't have those events that so many people look forward to every year in order to raise the funds to allow you guys to provide services. So you've kind of had to get creative and come up with other opportunities for people to get involved. Tell me about a few of those that you guys have been able to develop.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, as Cox and a supporter of Gulf Coast Kids House, we look forward to every year Chocolate Fest and Brunch and Bubbles and just fun opportunities and great, exciting ways to get people involved with fun events, but a way to teach people in the community about what Gulf Coast Kids House does and the services that we provide to our community. And so we've had a number of sponsors and supporters who have committed two of those events, and we had postponed and eventually had to cancel. And so we have consolidated our fundraising efforts into the new Hope and Healing campaign. And we brought about this campaign as a way to kind of showcase the people who have been supporting us. We have partnered with a lot of our media partners like you guys and Cat Country and WEAR and a lot of the guys who have annually supported us through those fundraising events. And they're now going to help us collaborate and provide some recognition to you guys and to the people who have stepped up in our community and allowed us to hold on to those funds that we really, really need to continue operating. So you can go on to gulfcoastkidshouse.org and pledge your support there. We've had a number of organizations who have just really transferred their funds already, but individuals can also participate as well. It's a way to give back. Anybody this year can be a VIP for Chocolate Fest. If they want to donate their $25 that they would normally spend on a ticket, they can still donate that and still be a part of that cause.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good point right there that you just made. If you were planning on attending these events anyways and giving your funds to the organization to help out, you can still do that as just a general donation. And I know a lot of times you guys have volunteers, but I assume now, we're not taking volunteers based on how everything's working. But if people want to get involved in any other way, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, it's tricky. Our connectivity with the community has been really difficult. And as Gulf Coast Kids House, we are the one-stop shop and we bring people together around these kids and wrap them around in our support. But so other ways that they can get involved is we do have wish lists also. We still are giving our clients resources, school supplies and clothing items, pack and plays, all kinds of things like that. So we have some online wish lists because we're not taking physical donations at the Gulf Coast Kids House just for safety reasons. But they can go online and they can actually shop through Amazon, they can shop through Target or Walmart and actually send things directly to us so that we can then get those items to our clients.
Okay, so a lot of different ways for people to get involved and to help you guys out. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everything that you do for the community and do for our children in the community. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll be joined by Youth Village in Fort Walton Beach.